Hey guys, I want to do a little build video for y'all. It's the RacerXFPV ET5 build. I have one of these already and I just love the way it flies. I mean, it's just awesome. And I'm going to show y'all some key points in the build. And just want to do one of these for, I'm not going to show all the soldering points and all that because there's plenty of videos out there that show that. But I just want to give some key pointers on the build and what I've run into to take over and try to fix issues you may run into on the build. So what we have here is a RacerX ET5 and it's a 5-inch build. This one I have the 2004 Emax motors on with the 2 screws in the prop. I had an issue with these props and they just break easy when you tap something, hit something, or they come out of balance and they just break off easy. And I got tired of that going on. As a matter of fact, I got like 10 clockwise props left and no counterclockwise props, so I had to try a different prop. And I wanted the one with the inserts, and when I ordered these, they come in without the inserts, but they're supposed to be a little bit more durable. And I have some with inserts I'm going to try later. But I love the way this build flies, and it's a HDzero VTX. Same thing I'm going to add into the new build. And I'm going to show you all that here in just a minute. But this thing is an awesome little drone, and I have the little, protector over the lollipop because I had an issue where it popped out and it damaged the antenna on the internals of one of them. So I just threw it away, and they say these are not that great from the insides. I think the top spiral pops off or something when you crash. But I did put me a little band across my ear, and I welded it with the soldering iron so it would work. The new build I got going on, I've got some XNova motors, and they are 2203.5 by 2800 kV, and again that's XNova lightning motors. I had an issue where the bottom screw extends out past the motor frame, so it hit the frame on the ET5 and I couldn't, it was binding this motor where it wouldn't spin. So I went ahead and put the motor guards, I printed them and put them on there so I could put the motor on top, and took a soldering iron and kind of beveled out the inside hole where the center hits. Get the prints on there if you're going to use these motors to keep it from hitting. And you see I got it free on top. I don't have the motors real tight. They're M2/8, so a M2 millimeter by 8 millimeter long and an M2 by 7 millimeter, which I use. And I use a 7 millimeter on the front of the motors here so they wouldn't hit the wires when they come through, because you don't want to tighten them up too much, because I didn't want the binding of the motors. And I'm going to put some Loctite on there to make sure it holds. And the M8s on the back 2 screws of the motor, and it just worked out fine. Canopy here that's going to hold my HDzero VTX Race V2. That's the ones I've used. I've got the other builds, got a Nano 90 on it, and it works great with it. But I'm trying a Nano V3 from HDzero in this build because I want to see how it works. And the Nano 90s are a little bit more expensive, and I don't have the goggles. I have a VRX hooked to some Goggles X walk snail because I fly analog, walk snail, and HDzero. HDzero for racing, walk snail for freestyle, analog just for playing some little tiny drones and things of that nature. And that's why I got the Goggles X, so I could use all those and have just one goggle. The lollipop, and it just inserts down in there, and it's going to insert in the back. The VTX is going to be in the square frame, so it has some protection on top for when you hit things and hopefully don't damage them, because this hobby is pretty expensive when you're just tearing up stuff. And you will do it in racing. And I think it has a 20 by 20 mount on the VTX, and you can see we've printed this canopy where it'll hold a 2 millimeter mount, and then also hold 25 by 25 on the outside. And I've got some little nubbies in there just to give it a little space so air can flow up under there. In the center here, it has like this little piece of band going across there. So y'all know on the HDzero VTXs you got your MIPI cable, and that helps hold that MIPI cable down, I found, and it works nice. But when I get the standoffs on and all that, get everything set up, and I'm going to have this drone set up where I can change canopies. And with just a plug, the VTX and the camera and all is going to be in the canopy, and I can just unplug one wire. And I use ELRS receivers, and I just tuck them in right into the back. I can show you on this build. But if you can see them wires going into the back, right in here, my ELRS lite receiver, or one with the ceramic antennas, can just tuck right in there, and they're great for racing. But I'm going to have it set up where I can just untuck it, take the canopy off, and change it over from walk snell to HDzero on this drone here. And now, for the battery strap on the unit, on my other frame, I have the battery strap in the center. Not much space here for your batteries to go in there. On this frame, I took a wide strap and I melted holes where they will slip over these little jolts out, where you put the stands off. I melted holes where I could get the strap over them, so I'll have some extra wide room there to put my little battery pad in here, and it'll hold the battery, and I can fly the bigger batteries, because that was my issue. I ordered a bigger battery and it wouldn't work the same as my 6SN batteries, so I melted those holes and made this battery strap work. And I tugged on it pretty hard, so hopefully it holds up pretty well. Recommend the Kevlar straps at least, because they're very durable. And I also melted holes underneath in there. You can't really see it, but so I could get my flight controller mounting screws in there. And on this build, I'm going to be using the Mamba F722 with Wi-Fi, so I could hook it up to my Wi-Fi and hook up the Betaflight and everything, just to make adjustments in the field. This will be my first one I've used with Wi-Fi. Alright guys, so I was thinking on the LEDs. I think I'm going to go ahead and place them on there. So I got these little Pyro drone LEDs, and they come with little heat sinks to put over it to help protect the LEDs, so that's why I decided I'd probably go ahead with it. I noticed one bad thing about this, I was flying walk snell one day and I had LEDs on my front, and when you fly in low light, you know how the low light cameras and all, they really pick up that glare. So think about that. You might not want that. I didn't like it on that drone, and I took the LEDs off the front. This one's going to be used mainly for racing during the day, so I don't think I'm going to have an issue with that glare from the LEDs in the camera. And as long as it's not a low light camera, you'll be fine, I believe, and not flying in low light. But I'm going to go ahead and put some double-sided tape on the bottom of this, just a little bit to hold it in place, so I can cut all my wires to the exact length I need them. And I'm going to place them on every one and cut and wire on the motor, solder on the motor first, and then put my heat sinks on, slip them back so it doesn't heat up and shrink up, and then I'll put my wire from my LED to the ESC. And again, I just took off my nut and placed me a prop on there, and I want to put this right where, if the prop bends down and it hits, it's not hitting a wire or trying not to hit the LED. Again, the heat sinks are on there, so I hope it protects it pretty well. You can see I'm just pressing down, and I want to place my LEDs where they get protected and it doesn't knock the wires off if it bends down and hit it. So again, I'm placing my LEDs where I want them, and notice you want to keep your motor wires, just cut them the length you just need. Be careful not to get if you take off any of the coating off the wire and you snip something and you get these little small wire fragments, you don't want no metal getting up into your magnets and your motors while you're working. So keep your area clean, and don't get no little shavings of wire or anything like that in your motors yet. But just go ahead and place your LEDs. I've cut the wires. The center one goes a little longer. Not coming into focus great, but it's got to be a little bit longer in the center due to these LEDs. And again, these are Power Drone LEDs. So I've got the LEDs on, and I've cut all my wires to the length I need them to be, so I can get it soldered on. I just wanted to mention, you see these little caps on the LEDs? I've got all of them on the inside, so the prop will hopefully, or nothing would hopefully hit them and cause any issues, because I don't know what'll happen when one of them come off. I don't know if the LED will just stop, but I think the race wires run straight through, so hopefully that won't cause an issue. But I did put them on the inside so the props wouldn't hit them on this side, and when the props come down, I've got them where they will hit right about here at the tip of this solder point, and hopefully on the other side of the LED where it doesn't damage. You can see they're all pretty well placed in line. So I'm going to get this wired up, and then I'm going to get my little small aggravating wires in from the ESC to the LED. I'm going to get all that done, and then we'll come back and start the rest of the build. Alright guys, so I got my motors wired to the LEDs. I went ahead and cleaned all the flux off of it. And you notice I've got the caps on the back side where the props won't hit them. And I got my heat sinks on, got them pulled back as far as they can, so when I'm putting my other side on to the flight controller, it doesn't start to shrink them. But again, I cleaned all my flux off, put my heat sinks on, and you can see I got them all ready to go to the flight controller. So now time to put the little aggravating small wires on, and then we'll come back later with the rest of the build. Alright guys, so I got my HDzero Race V2 VTX right here. I done flashed it with the firmware. One aggravating part about having this canopy with the protection, you got to get the screws in there for the 20 by 20 first and set that up. And you know, I got the little spacers right there at the bottom of that plate to hold it up a little bit, and then I'm going to get this VTX wired. Put on these screws. Two of them are too long. They need to be about 13.5 millimeters long. And as you can see, I got two different sizes in there. I couldn't find the right size, but I'm going to cut them off when I get it on there. You see I got the motors wired in, the LEDs wired in, the heat sink sitting there loose. I'm not fastening anything down yet. I did put my XT30 connector down, wired it in. I have had these snatch off the boards when the battery come loose, so I'm going to do some more fastening there with a zip tie in a little while. But I went ahead and put my cap. Normally I have my cap on the end of the XT30, but it's just too much weight flopping around and you have to secure it down. The prop misses right there where it's at, so I'm going to attempt this for this drone, just so it's close to the flight controller as possible, and we'll see how it goes. But everything looks good so far, and before I plug it up, I'm going to set up a smoke stopper on it. Alright, I got my VTX wired up, RXTX, TXRX, popped my little lollipop in here with the U.FL, and hear that little rattling. I think I'm going to have a bad antenna, and I don't have another one to replace it at the moment, so I hope this thing works pretty good right now. But I believe one of them spirals has done come loose in that, and I hadn't used this one. And things just don't seem to hold up well, so I probably have to order another lollipop. But I'm going to get this thing together. We'll get some video. It might be kind of scraggly. Alright guys, I got the VTX in the canopy now. A little aggravating, but it'll pay off in the end. It's got some protection. See my MIPI cable running up under the little band there. It's snapped into the VTX. I got it running through the top. It's a little long, but that way I ain't got to fight when I got to get the camera in and out, testing things, checking things. I got the U.FL on there. Y'all know how aggravating it is if you use HDzero with these V2 VTXs. I like them, but getting that little metal support on the back of that antenna in there to hold it down is aggravating because of those small little parts. But the VTX is in. It's wired up to the flight controller, RXTX, TXRX. Got the voltage in. It's going to be a full voltage because it's supposed to take a 6-volt battery, and that's what I'm going to be running. So now I just got to pop it down, throw it on the computer, set up the motor direction, test everything out, and then I can put it together and fly it. Well guys, I had to go with the V2 camera. The V3 Nano was a little too small. I'm going to have to print me some kind of adapter to get it to work in there. But we got the camera set in. Just to get ready to pop this thing down, put my receiver on it. Then I'll put me some double-sided tape up under my LEDs. But I'm fixing to hook it up to Betaflight and get my motor spinning properly, check it, put the smoke stopper on it, hook it up and see if she's gonna fry. Well guys, I got it finished. Had a little problem with the UART1 on the flight controller. Again, that's a Mamba MK4 F740. I'm running ELRS, and that was on a little light receiver they have. I had it flashed and connected to the receiver transmitter. Everything was connected, but I wasn't getting no stick movements, and I had to move it to UART5 before it worked. I guess it was something with the inverted and all that S-verted and stuff. But I got it connected, tested the motors, everything spins fine. Had some ugly props I put on here right now so it don't look so hot with the colors and everything, but they'll do for right now, and then I'll throw some gray ones or red ones on there. But it is good to go, and I'm fixing to go test fly it and give it a little maiden, and I'll show you a little video. So the lollipop was bad on the unit. You can see the little static in there, so I got another one on order to replace it with. Just flew around, just a little light maiden flight, trying everything out here. Filling in there. I got to get a little bit used to it. I had to bring it back in and put just a little bit more angle up on the camera because I had it angled down a little bit. Flies great, smooth, got some flips. I think I got to get a little bit used to it, kind of ramp up on the BLL at 32 or something, just to get just a little bit more bite out of it. But I'm going to drop down to some lighter, a little bit more pitch props probably to take a little more weight off of that. This is where I was bringing it in to put just a little bit more pitch on the props. Wasn't liking that angle. Well, this guy looks like a little firefly. Trying to film with one hand.